It is 6:31. Tom, I think you could probably go ahead since we do have 2 people missing tonight for sure. Unless you want to give it another minute here.
See, I just did it. I started talking and I was muted. Do we have, what is our quorum requirements? I can never remember.
So you have 8 commissioners currently, so that puts you at a 5 commissioner quorum.
Okay.
Which you have exactly 5.
That's true. All right. So should we get rolling? Sounds like it. Let's officially open the meeting up at 6:32. We'll start with roll call. We do need to do roll call slightly different than we have before. There's a new requirement that Kathy sent out an email. So we need to state our names and the city and county with which we are attending from. That goes for all the commissioners. So I can start off. Tom Alwyn, calling in from East Lansing, Ingham County. And then I'll just call off first names as I have you guys on the list, and you guys can go through, and we'll be checked in and we can move on from there. So Cliff.
Cliff Walls, calling from East Lansing and Ingham County.
Janine.
Janine Camilleri, calling in from East Lansing and Ingham County.
Jessica.
Jessica Crawford, calling in from West Olive in Ottawa County.
Nice. And Chris.
Chris Kahn, attending from East Lansing and Ingham County.
Very good. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. Hopefully we may have another person or two pop in a little later, but we at least got the official roll call done. So let's move on to approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to check out the agenda? All right. Anyone have any additions or changes that they see?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The agenda is accepted. Next, move on to approval of the previous meeting which was, pulling it up here. Oh man, I clicked the wrong link. October 19th was our last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at that as well?
Mm-hmm.
Any changes or adjustments? There was one that I noticed. The very beginning talks about we were in room 1, a courtroom, which we weren't. I don't know if that matters since we were virtual.
I think because we do an electronic meeting notice, but I can take a look at that and see if there's a way to change it on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it matters. That was the only thing that jumped out at me.
Might pre-populate that. I'll have to check it out, but I'll
Probably.
have to fix that. But we do have an electronic meeting notice that went out, so I think we've done our due diligence in that regard.
Good. Yeah. Otherwise, it looked good to me. Oh, sorry, Cliff.
I was gonna, I move to approve the minutes.
And I'll second.
Good teamwork. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so approved. Get back to where I was. I'm tracking all this on my phone because I can't keep track of where we're supposed to be at. All right, so Brad, do we have any folks on the meeting from the citizens, stakeholders?
We do not have any attendees today.
Okay, then I guess we can just move on to the new business. Our first item is the annual stormwater management presentation. We have Nicole here. Nicole, are you going to give us like a PowerPoint share screen or just talk us through, or what's the plan?
I have some things, but mostly I'll just talk to you similar. I can't even say that word now because you know we're really close to the end of December. Anyway, as in years past, We'll say it that way. I've just come in and talked to you guys or someone, myself or somebody else from the engineering department in regards to the stormwater. So again, my name is Nicole McPherson. I'm the Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works and Engineering Administrator. And as part of our requirements, we want to be able to get the word out about our stormwater program. So, you know, every year we go and come to this commission and go through our municipal separate storm sewer system, or our MS4 stormwater program. So we have a pretty involved stormwater system, and you know, we go through. It is contracted by the state. It's in our permit. We actually went forward and had our new permit issued in February. So we did get our final permit in February for our new NPDES permit. So as part of our NPDES permit, we have the requirements for the MS4 program. So with the MS4 program, there's a lot of components to this. And honestly, I would really, as we've asked people in the past to do, take a look at our webpage. It is chock full of information about, you know, what we do, you know, from all aspects of our stormwater management, you know, to the public education, to the public participation, which is where this meeting comes into play, to the you know, best management practices that we have, to, you know, one of the more what I would say, interesting things, or one of the components that is takes up most of the time for part of the MS4 program is the post-construction stormwater sites that we have for the developments throughout the city of East Lansing. So for all of you that don't know, I went through this last year, but the post-construction stormwater will come into play for sites that are over 1 acre in size. And so we're looking at a site and we're saying, okay, this site is 1 acre. And as it stands currently, let's say half of it is pervious, meaning, you know, grass, and the other half is consumed by a building. So development, it's up for redevelopment, and the developer that's coming in says, okay, well, here's my building, and it fills the whole site with a building, and there's no more grass there. And let's say it's over 1 acre. We're going to make it a perfect storm here for the developer. And so when that comes into play, we take that that difference between pre and post imperviousness for the site, and we put forth the kind of our ordinance. So we're looking at the volume and channel protection there. You know, so we want no net increase in site runoff volume and peak flow rates for storm events of the 2-year 24-hour. From pre-development conditions. So we look at that. We look at the peak flood control. So peak discharge rate for all storms up to the 100-year 24-hour event shall not be greater than the pre-development discharge rates. So, you know, people have to keep things on site with, you know, storm detention and all sorts of, you know, various engineering I don't know, principles, you know, keep things on site, underground detention, and just kind of, I mean, if a building in theory is taking up the whole site, there's not going to be room for like rain gardens or anything like that. But so this would probably not be a very good development. And then another aspect of it is the water quality criteria, and making sure that that's met as part of it. And that's treating the first 1 inch of runoff from the entire site. You know, we have BMPs in place that we can, you know, work with this, and we want it to be the ability to achieve a minimum of 80% removal of total suspended solids, and not to and as compared with like an uncontrolled runoff and a discharge concentration, you know, for that 80 milligrams per liter for that total suspended solids. So kind of went all over the place there, but you know, these are what we're implementing now. And, you know, for everybody's knowledge, we go through the process. It starts with the site plan. We get all of the information. They provide us all of our storm calculations. We sign off on those. We move forward through the whole development. We get to the end and they have to submit an executed maintenance agreement. Because while it's all fine and good that the developers come in and say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to take care of my stormwater requirements, we need to make sure that they actually follow through and do what they need to do. And it's not just that they implemented it at the beginning, that they're going to move forward and take care of it as it moves in perpetuity into the future. Because if they say, hey, we're going to put in you know, a swale, and then nobody does anything with it, well, it's not really doing what it was designed to do. So we have maintenance agreements, which with each of the developers that had to comply with our ordinance. So currently, throughout all of the development since it started about 2017, we currently have 5 executed agreements. This is with 1100 Trowbridge, 1090 Trowbridge. This is the Trowbridge Crossings. We have an executed agreement with them that was executed in 2019. Cole Academy was executed in 2018. And I'll explain a little bit how we do this with the years. So let's say, like the Cole Academy, they got theirs all set and submitted to us, executed in 2018. That's great. Well, we won't expect something from them with their full report on how everything, you know, making sure that they've cleaned their catch basins and submitted everything for that agreement until 2019. So, you know, we give them a year for it to be established and get into the routine, because it's brand new at 2018 at the end of the project. And then in 2019, we will require that information to be submitted. So we you know, we've received that from them because they were 2018, and we've received it from the Trowbridge because they were 2019. And there's another one, SEG up here at Turf and Earl. That was a 2019 installation. And so we've received information from them. So moving forward, we have the Center City development with the Newman Lofts, or the Landmark, and that was 2020. You know, so we've initiated the agreement, but we won't get the final first investigation or first output of that until next year. And that's the same. There's a professional, another professional office building up here off of Turf and Earl off of Coolidge. We call it the Maynard Professional Center Unit 10 that we have an agreement with, but again, won't be fully established to where we're getting data back and make, you know, those, the requirements set forth in the executed maintenance agreements until next year. So, you know, those are the ones that are in place right now. Moving forward, we have the Graduate Hotel. We're working with Bertram Solar Park. That one's really close to get that taken care of. The Hub is one out there as well, where it's just kind of waiting on paperwork. You know, that's been established, but, you know, we need to get all the paperwork in hand. East Lansing Elementary Schools, we're going to do those all as one group. You know, some of them have already been installed, but we're going to do get all of that as one group because they're going to maintain them all together. And we're working with East Lansing Public Schools on that. So kind of, as I mentioned before, you know, our permit was renewed, and we were up and got the issued permit in February of 2020. Another component of this that I mentioned last year is the addition of the total maximum daily load, the TMDL implementation. So this is part of our permit, and it's to reduce the discharge of E. coli into the Red Cedar River. So with that, we've incorporated this into our best management practices for monitoring all of our outfalls within the Red Cedar River. So this will come into play. We've paired this with our IDEP program, which is IDEP is Illicit Discharge Elimination Program. And we do ours on a 5-year rotation. So our IDEP outfalls that we monitored this year were not in the Red Cedar River watershed that the E. coli is affiliated with. So, but it will be next year. So those outfalls, we're going to get our hands pretty wet with trying to figure out exactly how to do this. And I should have a great report of that for next year for you. It's an interesting and obviously great thing to be able to limit the amount of E. coli within the Red Cedar River. But it's very challenging, and all of the municipalities around here are approaching it the same way, and a lot of help from Cliff there through the GLRC and Tri-County, because you really need to get out there within like 30 minutes of it starting to rain to be able to see if any of the runoff that you're collecting from these outfalls has any of that E. coli in it. So, and then if in fact you do get a hit, where is it coming from? Is it from runoff from a park that's nearby that have a lot of geese? Is it raccoon? Is it animal, or is it actually human? So we'll have some great output for next year, and you can look forward to that. Any questions on our stormwater program as a whole, or anything in component on that? Yes.
I actually have a question. So you were just talking about the different types of E. coli. Is the TMDL total E. coli, it's regardless of human versus animal, or is it specific to like ag and human waste? What is that? How is that TMDL sort of framed?
My interpretation of it, and mind you, I'm on the surface level because we haven't fully dived into it, but it's just total E. coli.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I will just give a quick update here on the water resource recovery facility.
I was going to ask a quick question about, where you guys, so for like the city of East Lansing Public Schools, will you guys put their plans somewhere on a website, or how do you guys track that information?
For their site plans?
Yeah, for the post-construction, so the work that they're going to be doing moving forward.
We have all of their plans in-house. I think they have a lot of the plans on their school bond webpage too. I don't know if it's full construction plans or not, but I know there's a lot out there. If you're interested in something specific, those are plans that we do have.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering. And then for the for some of the like the city center project, or wait, is that the Target building?
Yes, city center is Target, and then the parking garage and the condo is behind.
So those guys, they did a lot of green infrastructure, like green roof style, when they put together their development. They have that green roof and partial side area where they're doing green infrastructure. Is that the kind of stuff that's going to be in their plan, just how they're going to maintain that?
Yes. Yep. It's that green roof component, because again, a green roof installed is only as good as how well it's maintained. If you let it dry out and you don't do anything, or if it clogs and you just let it go, then it's not doing what it was set forth to do. And that's, they also have to allow us to inspect it as well.
Yeah.
So, they provide the, hey, we maintain, we cleaned out our catch basins, or we cleaned our oil water separator, or X, Y, and Z. And it's all kind of listed out in their maintenance plan for their type of facility.
Mm-hmm. So what is I don't know if you're familiar, but what is the graduate doing for their, because I'd imagine for these larger projects that don't have, like, that area didn't have a lot of like grass and stuff before they developed it. It was already concrete, but we want to manage the runoff coming from the property. So are they also doing a green roof?
My understanding, from what I remember, they have a green roof, and then they also have some underground detention basins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a
Do they have
combination of
parking?
both.
They have internal parking at that site, right?
Yes, but not much.
Yeah. Okay. So they have to basically clean it out and maintain it. And, Yep. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep. You're welcome. So I know another update that we give you guys every year is about the water resource recovery facility and kind of all the projects that we're doing there. For people who haven't heard this before, we really started going strong with some of our updates at we call it the WRF, the Water Resource Recovery Facility. So you'll hear me say WRF, and it sounds funny, but it works. So we started back in 2017, and we updated, I guess that's when it was updated, but the tertiary filters, the UV disinfection and effluent project, and that was completed, in 2016. I started in 2015, completed in 2016, 2017. And we've just been moving forward year by year. We've gotten low interest loans through the state revolving fund. And, next up after that one was the Headworks and Interceptor Improvements Project. That one's taken a little bit longer. The Headworks is all operational. They're still doing some work with the Interceptor. They were lining the Interceptor. They have some, manhole construction to be able to do, but we're hoping that one gets up completed here by January, and keeps moving forward at that point. So it's getting closer day by day. And then probably the one that you're most excited about is the solids thickening, dewatering, and solids handling improvements. And this was the installation of the anaerobic digester and, the ability to capture the methane and convert that to electricity. This project is set forth to hopefully save us about $500,000 a year annually, and will also reduce the sludge from being landfilled by about 40%. So this is a great project, and this project is moving along wonderfully. It's still scheduled to be done in the spring, and we couldn't be happier with how it's going at this point. So the next up of the projects for the WRF is the aeration and clarifier improvement projects. So this is currently being designed. It's again through state revolving fund, and this will update the aeration system and and add some additional clarifiers out at the plant. And this also has that ability to save us some energy. We're gonna again go for some what they call green reserves. So SRF green reserve forgiveness. So with that, we would get loan forgiveness. And we may already have some insight that, we're at the top of the list for that. But, we're set on that one with just the aeration upgrades to possibly save another $300,000 a year per energy savings just by updating the aeration system at the plant. So, this is another project that is, right on track for, saving energy and looking at that, and this is updating the blowers and the aeration system itself. And it just offers us a lot of benefit to doing that. So that kind of is the summary of like the up and coming work at the plant. Any questions on that?
Hey, Nicole, thanks a lot for that update. I just want to applaud the city for heading in the direction of water resource recovery. It's a paradigm shift, and it's a necessary paradigm shift. And it offers triple bottom line benefits. So
It does.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Question, was wondering, is there like an overall goal in terms of the WRF for achieving some kind of, like endpoint? Is it, just kind of offsetting cost? I mean, obviously there's all these benefits, but is it net zero? Is it actually energy production, net energy production, or like, is there an ultimate goal to be achieved?
With the overall configuration of the WRF, I don't think that we would be able to get to net zero for energy, but the goal always is to figure out the ways that we can improve the processes that do limit the energy, consumption through that. So we're, with the various treatments and various new things coming online, there's always ways that we can, things that we can look at to be able to see what's going to provide kind of a better output and things like that. And usually, those are the ones that we can add into projects and, talk to other communities and make sure it's working for them too, to be able to even look at getting some of this, as I mentioned before, this green loan forgiveness through that program. And those are things we always want to look at. But I don't know at this point, that we have a specific goal, but it's always looking towards that, because it's one of our, most expensive, city facilities for, energy, because it always has to run. It runs 24/7, 365, to be able to treat the sewage that comes from the residents.
Thanks, Nicole. Just one more quick question. Is there a payback on the investments that are being made, like a year payback?
I think that, yes, there is. For the aeration, I believe the payback was, oh gosh, it wasn't very long. It was like a 5 to 7 year, or that could have been the digester. I'm getting the two projects confused. But yeah, it was like an under 10 year payback by the time that we went through both of those.
I bet it's the aeration, because that's very expensive to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 7 or 8 years, one of those, Nicole, because I remember doing a little summary or something a while back. And that's what I remember too. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, I mean, short and sweet, that's kind of the summary of the stormwater program, which was the basis of me coming here. And I do, push you guys to look at that website. And also if there's any improvements or anything that you would like to see as part of that, please, feel free to reach out. We are always updating. We're getting input from Cliff and others to be able to say, hey, this is what the other communities are putting in theirs, and this is going to be our most helpful way forward. So anything like that, we are very much appreciative of any of that input. So
I thought it looked great. I was reading through. I mean, I come from similar government background, right, and know a lot about stormwater. Yeah. So I thought it looked pretty sharp.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I do too, but I'm biased.
It's got way more than anyone else's, at least like in the GLRC. Like, you guys are the example for everyone else, and no one even bothers to try to go as far as you guys do. So yeah, it's great.
Good. Thank you. So, but I'd happy to answer anything else, any other questions in regards to engineering, our projects that are happening, and go from there.
I guess I just had a question, and I don't even know if this is something that falls within our jurisdiction, but I know the Ingham County Drain Commissioner has been doing a lot of work along, and we had a big project in East Lansing along Michigan Avenue there that's been completed now for probably like 6 to 9 months. But then I also noticed they were doing a bunch of work now, I think, by Frandor. So that's the additional work, right, to improve the stormwater in that area?
Correct. That's part of the their Montgomery Drain project. And their Montgomery Drain project is kind of it's a compilation of almost like 14 different phases and bid projects. So I can't regurgitate everything. I mean, we've had more than a few discussions with Ingham County in regards to this, but yes, they're working forward with a lot of these phases to be able to, implement and their stormwater plan for this area. And there is some components that are directly related to East Lansing. We as part of our negotiations with them, we have 3 connections that they're going to be building for us for future stormwater connections from our end and into their system.
Sounds good.
But they'll be around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I remembered that. And then they're going with, there's just so much going on right now. And then I noticed that there's a lot of work being done, at the Renaissance. Is that right? The Renaissance development, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Red Cedar Renaissance.
I believe. And the fact that now you can kind of tell the buffer that used to be there between the river and the backside of that project, now you can almost see through that area. Like, I think they've cut down a lot of trees that now you can really see through there. But I think there's that Montgomery drain work is also tied into the Renaissance project.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, like 2 years from now when it's all done, to see what it all looks like.
2 years is, you might give yourself a few more years than that.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Nicole. That was very informative. I appreciate the updates every year. It's kind of fun to see, how it changes and the new things that are coming up.
I'm always hopeful that I'm not repeating myself every year. So if there's anything specific you guys need, just let me know.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I also see that the pumping station on Harrison looks like it's getting closer too. So that's nice.
Yes, it is. We're doing trainings, and hopefully here over the next couple months we can get that fully operational.
Yeah, I know that was adding some redundancy. Is there an energy efficiency that was included in that as well, or?
Yeah, that's a good one to mention as well, because it's not about just redundancy, but we're fully replacing that pump station that's at Woodingham and Harrison. It's updating it from like a 10 million gallons a day to a 14 million gallon a day pump station, and it's providing also future capacity to get up to about 17 million gallons a day. And yes, this pump station was built in the 1960s. You take a 1960 pump, replace it with a 2020 pump, you're going to get energy efficiency between the two. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So there will be efficiencies. At this point, it's not something that we're quantifying, because we're pumping more, and there's some different other components to that. But overall, yes, it's something that is going to be a bit more efficient moving forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yep, you're welcome. Everybody have a good holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you sticking with us, or are you taking off?
Oh, I might take off.
We're gonna make
Kathy said she was gonna make me go. No, just kidding.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yes, you too. I appreciate this group. You guys do a lot of great work. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. That was good. Let's move on. Our next new business is approval of the 2021 meeting schedule. Has everyone had a chance to take a peek at it? I'm going to pull it up on my phone if I can. If for some reason does not want to pull up on my phone.
Would you like me to go through it a little bit, Tom? And
maybe talk us through. Give me some stuff.
So as we continue down this path of electronic meetings, and we don't know at what point we will start meeting in person, hopefully at some point in 2021. You guys probably realize that we always schedule on the third Monday of the month, with the exception of January and February, because we have these holidays. We have MLK and President's Day. So we had always just adjusted our schedule so that we would go one Monday before or one Monday after. When you're meeting in person, there's no problem because there's no meeting that is conflicting with you. We all can have separate rooms and everybody can meet. But when you're doing electronic public meetings, we can only do one at a time. And all the Mondays right now are taken up. So we can't adjust in that direction without changing our time and making some significant adjustments. In January especially, it was very full. So what we talked about is not having a meeting in January due to the MLK holiday. In February, we would not be able to meet at 6:30 on a Monday before or Monday after, but there is a 4:30 to 5:30 time slot that we can have in February. And so that's how we came up with this schedule. By March, we're back to our normal schedule, and we have those third Mondays every month that we can keep at our regular time. But this can be somewhat up for discussion. The problem is, of course, if you want me to find other times, we may be quite restricted. There are meetings during the day, there are meetings virtually every night as well. So, and there has to be a certain amount of time between Zoom meetings in order to change everything over for the next meeting and to make it public and to make it broadcast live.
I'm okay with that time.
Yeah, I see this as being okay for me. One quick question though, Kathy, sort of about tonight's meeting. Do we have a time limit? Is there someone after us?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, tonight we're the only ones. So
okay.
Are you planning till 10 or 11?
At least, okay. Yeah.
I hope not. I have a fire burning in the yard because it's the solstice, you know, the luminaries. So yeah, we have our fire going.
Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, if you have questions about this calendar or people want to make other suggestions, we can talk about that, or you can move it for approval. It does have to be approved at today's meeting, ideally.
Yeah, I have no additional comments or changes. So unless anyone else does, I think we need a motion.
A motion to approve the 2021 meeting schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move forward with that. Thank you. I did finally figure out how to get it up on my phone. It's because it was already open. Go figure. Good. So at this point, that is the end of our new business. And we can move on to old business, which is the draft coal tar sealant ban policy resolution. Kathy, what's our status on that? I saw you attached a draft version.
Correct. So at your last meeting, we discussed this item. We had a draft resolution for you to look at, but we also talked about Christy Alwyn spoke from Eagle, and we talked about Meridian Township having just passed a resolution. And at the time, the marching orders were to craft our resolution closer to Meridian Township's. to also run pieces of this resolution that affect other departments by those departments. So, for example, our building administrator and our clerk's office needed to take a look at the resolution and understand, because they would be licensing the contractors through the clerk's office, and building inspectors would need to be aware of this, and we need to tie this to permitting. So we had kind of talked about making those outreaches with other divisions. So I met with both Scott Weaver and Catherine Gardner from the clerk's office. They were both very amenable to the resolution and to those parts of the resolution that would affect their divisions. I then took Meridian Township's resolution and I lifted lots and lots of their language, because as we talked about, the advantage to that, and just so you know, that's been a mutually agreeable thing between Meridian Township and East Lansing before, where they have also done the same with some of our language and resolutions that we've adopted ahead of them. So we're happy to share that language back and forth. It's good for the region. And for contractors, if the region has a very similar operations approach, if they're moving between Meridian Township and East Lansing and potentially Lansing, I've already talked with folks at Lansing about doing a very similar thing, then that's a benefit to everyone. If the rules are sort of the same across the board, that's a good thing. I think that we can get more compliance that way, and I think we can grow this in the region, because other communities can look at it and say, well, we already have 2 or 3 or 4 on board, and they've made it very easy in the way that they've laid it out. So I took that language, I put it all together, and I sent it off to the city attorney. They did some cleanup and added some technical language that needed to be added. And so what you have is the approved to form by the city attorney version. Right after this was attached to the agenda, we did get a number for the resolution, so we do have an official number. So when it goes to city council, if you so move it to city council for approval, it has been assigned a number.
And I was muted again. See, I'll do it every time. All right, good. Thank you, Kathy. Have folks had a chance to take a look at it or have any questions or comments? Now's the time.
I have a comment. So Meridian Township a couple years ago brought this up to the GLRC and their interest in doing something regional on this. And it just, Giannis, their engineer, brought it up and it just kind of died at the table. Like, it was the end of the meeting and people were trying to get out of there, basically. But I brought it up again at our full meeting this early December, and there wasn't as much discussion about a regional effort behind this as I would have liked, but there wasn't anyone who said that it was not appropriate to be advocated by the GLRC as a body. They thought that it's a stormwater concern. It'd be kind of more, advocate-y than we typically are, but that was within our jurisdiction, basically, for an issue like this. And so I don't know what a regional effort would look like, if it's just, relying on us to kind of coordinate with others and, connect a community like DeWitt or somebody who wants to do something similar and, put them in touch with Kathy or, Leroy, someone who's familiar with the ordinance and the process and all that, or if there'd be some sort of actual guidance document or something, or model language that we could provide. But we are reforming our ordinance committee this spring to touch on some other issues, but also this. And so we will have some, some buy-in from around the region. So who knows? I brought it up at the Tri-County Board of Commissioners meeting last Thursday. And like the road commissions, it instantly had some questions for me because they said that they'd use a ton of this stuff and, just were kind of spooked by the idea. And so there's a lot of obstacles getting through all these different bodies. But the first hurdle of, just being, me as staff approved to kind of pursue something like this or like to assist others using my time or whatever, our resources, is a positive. And so having East Lansing and Meridian, kind of break the seal is good. But a lot of people in the meeting said that, some of the engineers like at Lansing, they're like, the stuff, the coal tar based stuff isn't really used as much as you'd think. It's mainly the small mom and pop people who would be impacted. And, the price difference wasn't that significant. So they didn't really see this being something that would, have a lot of pushback at like the council level or something like that. So that's all good signs. And so, yeah, good on East Lansing and Meridian for pushing this. But like Kathy said, the whole point of the GLRC was to create this regional consistency across water quality issues for the purpose of developers coming in. So they don't have to do their homework for every, Lansing Township versus Lansing type of thing. So it's a step in the right direction. I'm just not entirely sure how it's going to look yet because no one really gave any discussion. It was like, okay, Cliff, just do what you want to do, kind of, I think. So that's good, but undetermined how it will shake out.
So given what you heard, Cliff, do you think there's certain communities adjacent to East Lansing that would be better to reach out to than others? Or that are we,
I think Lansing, I think Delhi Township, those for sure. Just based on like the discussion around the table, like those were the two who were like, oh yeah, that's probably not that big. That wouldn't be a big ask for our communities type thing. I'm assuming the DeWitts, they're pretty, their whole council and like leadership is all former or current Eagle, from my understanding, not all, but like they're very environmentally aware at the leadership level at those places. So yeah, I think that those would be some softer targets.
Well, I think it'd be great if Lansing, I think the more that we can even just, Meridian Township, East Lansing, Lansing Township, Lansing, that whole corridor, if Lansing got involved, that'd be great. I don't know how much Lansing Township, I don't know what they're like, or
I think that they'd be interested in something. They have a less reach for, I guess, they do have a lot of commercial properties in their jurisdiction though, so yeah.
Do they have though, with their location to the Red Cedar, though, from a, I don't know, impact wise, even though it's kind of a small entity, the river kind of runs through, their jurisdiction, right?
If you look at a map of Lansing Township, it's all over the place. It's like four different chunks.
Like the bits.
It's like Eastwood. It's like Racer Site and a couple other. Yeah, so I'm having a hard time picturing it, but.
So where we connect with the Red Cedar here in East Lansing, I thought like right on the other side of that was Lansing Township.
There may be a sliver of Lansing Township there.
Okay.
I don't know. Kathy, are you familiar with that? We have a big map in our office, but I haven't seen it for 9 months. Little slivers of Lansing Township all over the place here. It's really weird.
Okay. Well,
We've been annexed to death.
Gotcha. Well, Lansing obviously is a much bigger entity, and if they could adopt something like this, I think that would be really awesome too.
I think that, some of these communities who may be less inclined to mandate something at the, like telling a business owner what they can do, you could still just ban it for, municipal operations. A lot of communities in Michigan have done that. There's like Ann Arbor and like Southeast Michigan are all like total bans. And I think up in like Newaygo and some of those Midwestern, quadrant of Michigan were more just like municipal bans instead of, mandating it for others. So it's not an all or nothing. Obviously it'd be better to have everyone just ban it outright. But if there is some hesitation from some of the communities on, taking that heavy-handed approach. There are other good options, less good, but they're still good nonetheless compared to status quo.
Well, in the road commission, like you said, those guys are probably the ones that those would be a big bang for your buck too, if we could get them to, so they got a little nervous, huh?
Well, I mean, I would, I had mentioned it was very casual, brief, like just a staff update. Like it was a long meeting and I was the last thing on the agenda. So it was like, 2 sentences, just like what happened at the last meeting. And I'm like, we talked about this green infrastructure thing, but also trying to like spearhead a regional ban on coal tar seal coat. And that was it. And then they're like, wait, what? And like, they're not, like we don't have any jurisdiction. We can't decide that. It would have to go through bodies like, the ones that they represent. So it's not like it would just be something coming out of the GLRC, but I think, they just wanted some more information about it than what I was able to give in my 2-second blurb as we were closing up. So yeah, there's a little bit of discussion, but nothing like outright, oh no, we're not doing that. Just very curious.
Well, maybe you can report back to him once we get this thing passed and implemented,
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for doing that.
I didn't do too much, but thanks.
Spreading the knowledge.
So do we need a motion to send this to council? Is that what you're looking for? Or, no?
A quick question. So for the resolution in Meridian Township, they put what their application fee was in the resolution, but I noticed that our, price for our application fee isn't in our resolution or in the ordinance or anything. So I'm wondering like where that is established and how much would it be? Would it be the same, like $25 or whatever they had?
I thought
Yep.
maybe it was
Maybe I
wrong.
missed it.
No, I think that's the penalty, actually.
Yeah, when I sent it to the city attorney, I did have that $25 fee in there.
Mhm.
When he approved it to form, it came out. I don't think that means that it's not going to be the $25 fee. I think he just didn't want it in this actual language and resolution that it'll come. Because the $25 fee still has to be approved by city council. So I think it'll be maybe an attachment, a form, something.
Okay.
That is a budget approval to this, but my recommendation was the $25 fee to mirror Meridian Townships.
Okay, perfect.
And we can make sure, Jessica, that when it goes to city council, that's clear in there.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, is that something to put in the motion of approval with notation of the fee? I don't know.
That might be a question for Lisa.
That would be a good question for me. I don't know. Oh God, I got a cup of chocolate on my face. I will ask the city attorney and we can amend it at city council if necessary. So.
Well, I may be able to add something to it before it even goes because it was in the original language that I sent to him.
Okay.
So when he approved it to form, he must have had some reason why he pulled it out of where it happened to be located. So I can find out because the intention would still be that it would see that same license fee. So.
Okay.
Would it require like a, say what if you put it in the code, would that require like a lot more effort to update that? Like if it's just an administrative thing, they can just raise the price, whenever. But if it's written in this, then you have to go through and amend your code of ordinances to raise an administrative fee. That'd be my guess.
That was kind of my thought on it too, is that we approve fees such as permit fees, all kinds of fees, wetland use permit fees, all of that is approved through the budgetary process, the yearly budget. And it's done kind of in a separate way. So I think that's probably that it just needs to get added to that for approval. So, but we can absolutely make sure that that's still the case.
Oh, Jessica. All right, so I think we do need a motion if we're ready to send it along to city council to see what they think, and if they're willing to adopt as is, or maybe adopt it with some adjustments. But
I move to, what's the language we need here? Just to send this to council. I approve the submittal of the proposed resolution to council.
I like it.
That motion.
Language there.
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's give Lisa and the rest of the council more work.
Thank you very much. You guys, I'm always impressed by you guys. You're on the cutting edge, and sometimes, you know, it's almost unfair in East Lansing because people who might be interested in the environment, who want to apply for this commission, are behind people who have so many great credentials. And I just appreciate all you do. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Our pleasure. It's great to have a city that's so progressive of itself already. You know, I don't feel like we're, you know, going way outside of what other people would be interested in the city. So that's really cool. I certainly appreciate that. So, all right, good. I think that was it for our old business, and we can move to the staff report. If anyone has any questions for Kathy regarding the staff report. I had one, of course, but I'll see if anyone else does. Maybe not.
We're busy.
Not to put, yeah, even with COVID, even more so some days.
Totally.
Yeah, very, very much so. Not to put Jessica on the spot, but I would love if she gave you a little update on her survey, and we get to talk about it, but I think it would be nice if you just want to give a little update. That would be great.
Yeah, so Kathy and I started to collaborate. I think it was last fall. We started talking about the idea of potential collaborations for, you know, how we can use research to help, I guess, to pretty much just help solve kind of practical problems that the city might, you know, need more information for. And so we decided together that we should attack recycling. And so we first kind of developed a survey to get feedback on the drop-off recycling center. And that survey kind of expanded to also gauge citizens' interest in potentially doing composting. And so we started deploying the survey. It's been like maybe 2 months now or so, and we've gotten feedback from 500 people, and so that's been awesome. And pretty much what we've learned is that people love the drop-off center. They think that it would be extremely beneficial to, you know, get some more information on the do's and don'ts of recycling, to have more, I guess, materials able to be recycled on site, like, you know, mostly like plastic film. And there's also quite a bit of interest in potentially doing composting. Of course, a lot of people want curbside pickup and don't necessarily want, you know, drop off composting, because, you know, there's a whole issue of storing it and transporting it and doing all this stuff. And so that's kind of been, you know, people are hesitant towards it, but I think they're definitely open to the idea, and they've kind of ranked it, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, they're ranking it like a 6.5-ish for their like priorities for the city. And so it's something that people definitely have an interest in. And so hopefully we can kind of use some of this information to kind of direct some of the city's future actions. I know Kathy already has so much on her plate and she's already doing such great work, but I think this is really a good way to kind of get to hear from the citizens and what they want. And so kind of using that information to inform next steps. So yeah, we're wrapping up the survey after the holidays, and that's when we're going to kind of do the formal analysis and start planning some of the what do we do with this information type things. But yeah, we've been gathering some data, and it's been pretty good so far, you know, especially considering that the drop-off site has been closed for part of the data collection. So, you know, not too shabby.
Jessica's done such a good job on this and crafted a really great survey. So it's really helpful, and I love it when we can have partnerships in the city where the city benefits, you know, where you know, the researcher can benefit as well, but the city is benefiting in some very practical way, and to be able to hear from our residents in that way about this particular, you know, these two topics is super helpful. So, and to persevere through the two closings now of the drop-off site is super impressive too, and to get that many respondents, I think is
definitely.
Really
yeah, 500 is really impressive. That's cool. I know I took it when I heard about it, so that's exciting to know. I'm one of
good.
How have you guys?
If you guys haven't taken it yet,
it's in the meeting notes.
Yes, it is.
Yep. So how have you guys been advertising it or getting the word spread?
So we had kind of like little printouts with QR codes at the site, and then also Kathy put it in the curbside journal, and then it was also in the city's e-news dialogue, and that like really gauged a lot of participants that way. So we kind of been using both like in person as well as kind of the social media has been probably the most successful route.
Nice. Does the city have a Facebook or any of that kind of stuff that they can put it on too?
Yeah, we have all the social media that you could ask for. So
have you been advertising that way too?
I think we've done a little bit, I think I think we've done one post on Facebook and linked to it, and then of course the e-dialogue goes out to lots and lots of folks too. So we could do one more push, I think, during the holidays, Jessica.
Yeah, definitely. And then we gotta close it up because we're getting a lot of responses. I'm gonna have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Nice. I know I've gotten feedback from folks in the city, you know, long before this was even out, saying that, oh, we lived out in Seattle and they had curbside composting. Can the city start doing that? And I've had some emails from friends who are like, can we start doing composting? And I keep saying, you know, it's something we're very interested in. The commission has sort of talked about it a little bit, but not been able to sort of put anything behind pushing. So maybe this kind of survey will help guide us to start investigating it more. Maybe that's a subcommittee we need to pull together or something like that. We'll wait and see. Would you, Jesse, be able to put together like something to present to the commission once you have the results? And
yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be really cool.
That's a great idea. I'll definitely get that together.
Nice. I mean, don't shoot for, well, we're not meeting January, so don't or even February.
Darn, I was gonna start on it right after this meeting.
Yeah, nice. Eventually, when you have time.
Yes. Okay, cool. I'll put it on the calendar.
Nice. Very good. I was curious about that, so thank you. The other question that I had was if Kathy could divulge any additional information on the possibility of rooftop solar at another city facility. I hadn't heard anything about that, so that piqued my interest.
So as you know, your resolution incorporated, for those of you that were on the subcommittee, you may remember Doug Jester giving us some really good advice on that committee concerning one of the things you might want to consider in the resolution is focusing on when a building undergoes renovations such as a new roof, that, you know, rooftop solar is considered automatically. Now, maybe it's not going to work for that particular facility, but that it's something that, you know, you coordinate that interest in that specification in some way to increase the ability to have rooftop solar and to make it more cost effective as well. So we do have another building in the city that is undergoing some renovations in the next while. And so they are asking now for, you know, some load information from their engineer and information about what it would look like to have rooftop solar at that building. And I think you know that we're actually working with Michigan Energy Options right now on the Department of Public Works site about doing a large-scale solar project for this site. So we actually are probably going to be having a presentation, a final presentation from Michigan Energy Options here just before the holidays on that, or just shortly after. So we're pretty excited to see that and see what our next steps will be. And Tom, I know you're dying for me to tell you what building that is, but I don't think that they've gone public with that. So I don't necessarily want to be the one who, because that should really be the folks that are involved, but they have been incredibly open to the idea of looking at that because they are looking at a new roof for that building. So I think that it's really encouraging to see, you know, the work that you put into that resolution and that particular part of the resolution kind of come to fruition in action. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, cool. All right, fair enough. I can wait, I guess.
Very well loved building. I'll say that.
All right.
Bethany, I have a question about, so if the city elects to do rooftop solar or some kind of maybe somewhat sizable solar installation, how does that work with the utility? Because the city is a customer of the Board and Water Light, right? So does that like go into some kind of net metering program, or how does it work with the Board of Water and Light's oversight?
Right. So we're going to find out. We're going to be talking with them. There are some different options, right? So you can do a power purchase agreement. You could have a third party that owns the site initially. You know, there are a couple of different options, and that's one of the things that we asked Michigan Energy Options to help us sort out, because there are, you know, some different ways of approaching it, and you definitely need that interface with the utility and that partnership with the utility to make that work. And there are also some, you know, renewable energy options that maybe are being used in other parts of the country or in different ways, but aren't quite here yet, but we're really, really close. And so talking with them about how can we have those conversations so that maybe we are the ones who get to be that first project that's done a little bit differently, or, you know, set up in a way that maybe other parts of the country are doing, but we just haven't adopted here yet. So there are numerous options, and we're going to weigh all those and look at what's the best option moving forward for the city.
Just seems like it's one of those inherent struggles, because obviously the utility's interest is to not sell less power. So it's, you know, that whole, what do they call it? The death cycle, whatever they call it, you know, the death spiral, you know, they don't want to lose money there, but, you know, we're a forward thinking community. We want to advance our renewables, and we want to get away from, you know, we want to, I don't know, you know, become a little more free in a sense, I guess, you know, unshackled from the utility, but that's tough. That's a tough dynamic.
That was definitely a message that when Tom, you know, when you did the update, and I think Janine was there too, some of the newer commissioners don't remember, but when you did the update to City Council, which was a previous City Council, to the City Council we have now, but the message was really clear about renewable infrastructure and wanting to build that infrastructure as part of, we've got another commissioner. That's so cute. So trying to build that infrastructure and really demonstrate how it can be done, so that you're not just purchasing that green power from the utility, but that you're actually contributing to solving the problem of renewables and implementing those throughout the city as much as you possibly can. So I think that's definitely a message that you heard when you worked on that resolution.
Definitely. And even you know, that subgroup met with both power companies, and they both were very on board. You know, they spoke that that's what they were interested in, that they have mandates they have to meet. They didn't put up any obstacles to us at all. You know, they didn't always know exactly what they could do, but they always said, you know, we want to work with you guys. We want to move towards this same sort of thing too. And they presented, you know, the metrics that they had at that time. I'm not sure. It seems like that stuff changes sometimes, but that they had goals that they had to meet for renewable energy, and they were more than willing to work with us, which seemed kind of odd, but it seemed legitimate. So that was cool.
I think we're lucky with Board, Water, and Light. they seem to be more open. Like we have solar, and they gave us a huge credit that other utilities are not providing. So things like that just show, I think, that and they're doing quite a bit of projects in the area. So I think they're really, looking at diversifying.
I think they've accelerated some of their goals too, where they initially set out some clean energy goals, and I think that they're working on accelerating that as well at a faster rate than they initially expected. So
I think it's because solar is cheaper now than they thought it was going to be. So it makes sense.
Things are changing rapidly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Nice. All right. Anyone have other questions for Kathy on her report?
Kathy, did you go to, I figured that you went, but the Catalyst communities? Did you?
I wasn't at the Catalyst communities, but what I can tell you, and this was decided after I submitted my staff report, is that we are putting in an application for now the word just totally escaped me. The Catalyst communities.
Is it like an innovator or something, or?
Yeah, I wanted to call it an accelerator, but that was a different thing that I just did, and I can't get that word out of my head now. But we are going to put in an application. We created a city team, and as you guys saw in my email to you, it's so far Jessica and Anne and Cheryl have all expressed interest in joining the team. So those so far are the 3 commissioners. If there's somebody else that was like, oh, I really wanted to do that and I forgot to email you, we could still talk about that. And then it's myself, Nicole Mosteller, who's the assistant to the city manager, and Adam Cummins, who's the economic and community development administrator, and has some background in decarbonization as well. So, and he's very enthusiastic. So we're super excited about the team that we put together for this application, because we think it's, having representation in planning, Department of Public Works, the city manager's office, and the Commission on the Environment is just a great team to take into that. So yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited.
I'm glad that we had a couple of folks from the commission.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Any other questions for Kathy? All right. I was going to ask about, or, in this commissioner announcement part, say, the Catalyst community. So that one's checked off my list. I don't have to think about that. The other one that I wanted to bring up, that was also an email from Kathy on Friday, was that 270 West Grand River review. If folks, want to have an opportunity or have the time and want to provide some comments to Kathy, I think she had December 28th as the deadline to get her some info. I know those folks are looking for stuff in early January, so that'll give her some time to be able to compile stuff. She and I talked about it early on, and we're still trying to figure out how we want to handle all these different reviews, whether these small ones that are kind of this parking lot, how we want to handle it. But at this point, we're sort of figuring it out as we go. The bigger ones, like that early one with the parking lot, forgetting the address, was one that we thought should go out to everybody. And that's kind of where I lean with this, is giving everyone the opportunity to provide comments on the bigger projects. The smaller ones, maybe we sort of just play around or do something similar to this. I'm not sure. So we're going to work through it on a case-by-case basis. I don't even know how many we'll get necessarily, because this is kind of new for me. But, if you guys have strong preferences to be involved and provide comments, I think that's okay too. Let me know, or Kathy know, and we can make sure we loop you in on kind of all of them. I'm kind of open on how we move forward with that. So
I had a question about that one. I guess I'm just wondering if you have if Kathy, if you know, or anybody else. So the Big B property, right? That's now going to be a parking lot.
that is the plan. Yeah.
Is that like permanent, do you know, or if that's like because we're losing parking, or that's just, I guess, the person who owns the property, they want to turn it into a park. I'm a little bit confused a little bit as to why they're putting a parking lot there.
I have speculation. I don't know if I know. So
yeah, there's some information in the materials that they sent along, a little bit of background there. And I do think that it's a private parking lot that they're putting in for their, I believe they own the property across the street, so it's for their residents.
Yeah, okay. So, okay.
Weighing the permanent versus, you know, could it be redeveloped at some point in the future? I mean, that's
right.
I don't know. I'm not sure they would even know that.
So do you know from a, this is just a question from a zoning planning ordinance. So when they developed that property or other properties in East Lansing, they get a certain number of parking spaces. And I think we've been trying to shave the number of parking spaces that are allocated to building development per se. But so they had a number of parking lots or spaces that they had a parking lot that they designed and a number of spaces for their development, but they're able to also then like turn their other property into a parking lot.
That's really going to be a planning question. And
yeah.
If you want to propose it to me in a question, like in an email, I can send it to planning and ask them, but I would not be the person who could answer that with the technical proficiency that is required.
Yeah, so, that's fine.
Yeah. So just send me the question, kind of how you're thinking about it, and I'm happy to send it on to David Haywood.
Okay. I mean, I'm assuming it's all allowed. It's just, and I'm thinking maybe they're going to want to use that property later for development, but it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know, I wonder what the rest of you all, you know, feel about it. But like, you know, I mean, I guess it's a small parking lot. I don't know, Tom, maybe you're alluding to this. How much are we concerned about like that kind of thing, scale and scope? But, you know, just looking at the plans, it didn't seem like there was much to be impressed about, but maybe not much to be, you know, opposed to. I don't know. You know, I mean,
sure.
Nothing impressive. It's just a parking lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I didn't see in terms of any low impact development features, or, you know, maybe there was a little bit of lawn that was proposed, but, and then the stormwater side of it, it didn't look like there was really anything exceptional being proposed there in terms of stormwater control. So I'm just kind of like wondering, you're replacing basically a roof with more impervious surface. It's not really a net increase of impervious surface because it's just roof compared to, you know, paved surface. But I don't know, nothing to be impressed there in my perspective, but I wonder how you all feel about it.
Similar, honestly. Yeah, it was like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's more like depending on how you felt about the building. That building had some historic architecture to it, and that got torn down, and it's going to be a parking lot. It's a little odd, but there's other buildings going up in other parts. So I mean, you know, it's hard to really know what until that whole area gets redeveloped. Too, it's kind of all in a state of flux right now, and it has been for a couple of years. So,
definitely feel free to send those comments in that we can send to planning, and then as you're looking at that, like Janine, with your question or any other questions that you have, you know, feel free to send me the question with enough notice that I can get an answer from them. The holidays complicate everything, right? Because people will be kind of offline here very quickly, but I will do my best to get an answer if you have questions that are kind of preventing you from fully, making a comment on the project.
Do you know, I know we had this conversation before about the electric vehicle charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember if that development has one, or I can't remember that ordinance and how that works. Was that for new development?
So
They have a minimum amount of parking spaces in order to trigger that. And I don't remember the number, but I think it was higher than what this one is proposing.
But if they have a parking lot next door, like that's the part that's a little weird about this, because it's like essentially if it is the same entity and they had a certain number of parking spaces, but now they're able to go across the street to expand their parking spaces, does that trigger? I mean, it's probably going to be considered two separate projects. I'm just kind of thinking about this stuff, so I can email it. I just randomly thought about that, but
yeah, just email me those questions.
I mean, like that would be cool if they put an electric charging vehicle station right at some location like that that's very central and people could see it. And they're becoming more common, but like, you know, so.
You can still make that a comment, even if it doesn't fall under the ordinance. You know, if it's got to be a lot more spaces, which I kind of think Tom is right about that it was quite a few, the threshold for triggering that ordinance was pretty high. But that can still be a comment within, you know, what we send to planning, because really you're just providing your input.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Good thinking. That one didn't cross my mind.
I forgot what the first one was that I said. What was I?
About the push to
the limiting.
Less parking.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Got a lot going on.
Understandable. All right. Any other announcements from commissioners? Anybody got anything fun?
Yeah. I've talked about this, I think, probably the last couple of years. I'm going to send it in the chat. This green infrastructure audit toolkit. MidMeac was actually the first ones to kind of spearhead this in the area, and I helped a little bit on it in the city of Lansing. But then first COVID hit, and then they also were doing their form-based code stuff, so the planning kind of put a pause on that. But I did work with Meridian Township and go through the whole thing with them and come up with some recommendations and stuff. But when I referenced the GLRC relaunching the ordinance committee this spring, this was another project that they're going to pick up. We want this type of exercise where you go through the code of ordinances and identifying these sort of like barriers to green infrastructure. We want to regionalize that, but also, you know, create some sort of resource for answering the question about, you know, what's next. And so we want to develop a guidance document, resource manual of boilerplate language that is, you know, pro green infrastructure, essentially, that can replace some of these old, outdated, you know, sections of code. And so like some of the things like, you know, if we have a landscaping requirement that says, okay, your plants must be spaced at this distance, they must be this species, and there must be 6-inch curb around it, you know, like a parking lot island. That's prohibiting a developer from coming in and trying to, you know, utilize that parking lot island for bioretention, or for, you know, even if they're not doing a curb cut, if they just want to do native plants, they can't, because like, as an example, Meridian Townships says it must be one conifer 2 feet away from a deciduous tree and then small shrubs, you know, like just adding language that says, you know, the planting plan can be varied to accommodate stormwater bioretention is enough to open that up. You can go a step further and, you know, require it. But right now the language is prohibitive. And so this toolkit was put out by the Wisconsin Sea Grant. It's, you know, for communities to go through and identify barriers like that. Not everyone's going to have the same thing, but like you mentioned with parking, there are, you know, there's a parking section where you can go through and see if you're meeting like the latest standards from the Transportation Engineers Association or whatever, and some of these other like green certified kind of, you know, guide rails. But yeah, I think there's some interest at other communities within the GLRC of doing an audit, and then also obviously spending the time to create this resource tool. They must be interested in actually acting on it. But I just want to update you guys on that. I think this could be, it could be a culture shift. If everyone in the community or the region adopted something like this. Obviously every community is going to have different priorities. Their language is going to be different, but some of those low-hanging fruit sections like landscaping requirements and parking lot material requirements are not, you could have everyone pointed in the same direction and kind of have a, maybe not the same code, throughout the region, but something similar. So I'm pretty excited about it. And yet, like I said, we'll see how it shakes out with the committee reconvening and, timeline and all that. I'm not sure, but should be cool and kind of push with the levers that aren't regulatory, in like the traditional sense and not like the MS4 sense, because like the MS4 post-construction, like Nicole talked about, that captures the 1 acre plus, but there's a lot of things that fall in between, like homeowners too. If you're redoing your driveway and the city code says it must be 6 inches of concrete or asphalt, and you're like, well, what about permeable? Even if, you can get a variance, that's a barrier to you pursuing it. And if you just say permeable pavement is allowable with approval of the city engineer, that's enough to, 1, open that barrier up, and 2, to educate someone who doesn't even know that is an option like on the market, and then may look into it, So it's not just the commercial side of things. There's the homeowner. So excited about that.
Nice. Cliff, do you see something that the commission could do with this sort of initiative? I mean, I opened the link and then couldn't figure out how to get back to this, but I did. But I haven't looked at it at all, so I really don't know detail here. But.
So Meridian Township, I've been working with their environmental commission on doing an audit of, their code. So this would be a body where exercise like that could, come out of. I think we had mentioned it, pre-COVID, and potentially like having this be the next project out of the sustainable building subcommittee. But, at the time, things were really heating up and we're spending a lot of time and like after, outside of these regular meetings, doing these like breakout meetings, and it wasn't really probably the bandwidth for a volunteer board to do something like that. But then again, things are different, but also now that the GLRC is kind of promoting this regional effort, I spent a lot of my staff time working with Meridian Township, with the thought being that, I'd do that elsewhere too. And so there's always me and my non-commission capacity that could be tapped into as well. But yeah, as far as like priorities and stuff, it would be this, this committee would be the ones where that would come out of. So I worked with them, did the audit, and like kind of gave them some low-hanging fruit that I thought would be desirable or doable. And they're also way different because most of the MS4 program is administered by the county, because their MS4 is just their township properties. So a lot of the actual audit toolkit wasn't applicable to them. So I just skipped it and kind of focused on like the landscaping and parking stuff. But yeah, like I didn't go recommend anything to the planning commission. It was like, I just kind of kicked it off to the environmental commission and they're taking the lead with, my help as needed. But the drive within the community was all through and continues to be all through their equivalent to this body. So.
Okay, that's good to know. I think that sounds like a good thing for us to keep in mind. So keep reminding us, and when that sustainable building group gets over the hurdle they're about to go over, I think this does seem like a really good next step for that group if they're willing to take that up. So we can definitely talk about that. Thanks, Cliff. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, no more announcements. We might need a motion to adjourn unless anyone has anything else. Oh, I had one other announcement. I do miss the fact. So for the new folks, Cheryl usually brings a huge tray of Christmas treats to the December meeting. So I'm bummed that we're not meeting in person for that, and that she's not even here for us to tease her about it. So, oh well, maybe next year.
I move to adjourn.
Cliff is the leader of movements this
Thank
meeting. Good job.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Nice job. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. Janine, missing your fire.
It's okay. I'm just glad I could make it because I wasn't exactly sure how tonight was going to go. And I had such a crazy day with work and going to doctor's appointments and things. So I'm glad that I'm here and was able to. And we had so much great stormwater talk that, really wanted to be here. So I appreciate it. It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody.
Yeah.
All right, thanks all. Have a
Okay,
good
bye.
Be safe.
Holiday.
Thank you.
Take care.
Happy holidays.
You too.